Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Shatay, and we are the Hazes.
Welcome to the Love Haze podcast, where we talk about those unspoken hard parts of life.
That's right. We process out loud what most folks experience in silence.
That's right. And I'm about to get it cracking today. I'm on one. Listen.
And he is.
If I hear one more y'all come for Black Love documentary, it's going to be an issue. With the recent news of the dissolution of the marriage between Miss Tina Knowles-Lawson and Richard Lawson, we are seeing more and more that people coming for Black love. And I don't like it.
Me neither.
So, Black Love one of our favorite shows. I'm here to defend it. We're going to talk about it. I got time today. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to our Black Love journey. Let's go.
Mama, I'm sorry. I'm going to be cussing.
So, shall I set us up then? Because clearly people already know what's about to go down.
Please.
But y'all already know we love Black Love documentary. And we talk about it all the time. It's one of our favorite, if not our favorite, Black Love show. And so since Miss Tina and Mr. Lawson are separating, people have compiled these little, what do you call them? Carousels on the internet showing all of the marriages that were featured on Black Love but are now divorced. And out of the 250 or so, that's what you said when you looked it up, relationships, these are the 5 that we know of. And it is Megan Good, Miss Tina, Niecy Nash, Latoya Luckett, and Tia Mowry. Those relations. I remember the women's names. I'm not coming for the women. Those are the names that I remember. And because I know them as, and I'm fans of them as actresses. So, or entertainers. So those 5 couples are divorced. And now all of a sudden, internet's talking about Black love is cursed and don't do anything couples content related. And it's just abso-freaking ridiculous, y'all. So out of 250 relationships, the famous 5 that we know are divorced. And all of a sudden it's cursed. But my opinion is what's actually happening is you're just seeing what happens, one of the possibilities of getting married. Because there are also couples who have lost their loved ones and they are now widows or widowers. And there are also people who are on there and have been married for decades and years and years. And so because these 5 couples, and by the way, the divorce rate in America is what, like 50%? So if what actually should be happening is 125 of the couples we should see divorce if you really want to talk about the math of it. But to go and say that they're cursed because 5 couples haven't made it and we shouldn't show this kind of stuff on.
You sure I'm the one that's mad?
Guess I'm a little worked up about it as well.
You're a little hot too.
So we should unpack the fact that people are saying we should cancel this type of content altogether is just ridiculous. It really does speak to our cancel culture. But let's talk about why why are you so hot about the uproar?
There's a whole bunch of reasons I'm pissed off about it. The level of pistivity is high. Number one, I think we don't always understand the assignment. And it's called Black Love documentary.
Yeah.
It is a documentary of Black love.
Yeah.
It is not, hey, this is what success in marriage looks like.
Yeah.
That's not the name of the show. It is Black Love documentary. It is documenting the marriage journey, no matter what that looks like. There are people on that show. And yes, 250 couples were profiled. I did a little bit more research. 75 to 80 couples were actually featured over the 5 seasons of the show.
Okay.
Out of those, we got 5. Even if we take away the 250, if we go with the 80, 5 of those couples that we know, the relationships have dissolved. We know folks lost spouses, like you mentioned. Willie Cool and Roz, he lost his wife to brain cancer.
The comedian?
He passed away recently. That is all part of the documentary, documenting the journey. I think that we missed the point of documenting Black love when we don't acknowledge that these people chose each other to go on this journey with, no matter how long that journey was for. Nobody anticipates divorce.
No.
Nobody anticipates that my spouse is going to get sick or die.
Yeah.
Nobody anticipates that we'll go broke.
Yeah.
Nobody anticipates that. The story itself, for those who really paid attention and watched Black Love documentary, it was about navigating all of those things.
And how they happened to have done it.
Right.
What their stories were. It wasn't ever a how-to, and this is what you need to do to get to be like us. It was never that. It was just a presentation of different types of Black love. And I'm sorry, I just realized I interrupted you. I just got passionate. But we out here always talking about, we are not a monolith, we're not a monolith. And then here we are with just a beautiful expression of how much we actually are not a monolith. All of these different types of couples, and 5 of them don't work out, and all of a sudden throw the whole thing away.
And I think it is symbolic of, kind of how the narrative gets pushed on our community that we are all bad when certain small bad things happen. So we're not going to talk about the 70 to 75 couples who have made it. We're going to talk about the 5 that we know of that didn't. And then we wonder why other groups do that to our race as a whole when we do it to ourselves. We get so obsessed with the train wreck that we don't see our entire community, the love and the care and concern of the Tylers, who are the producers of the show. They put into that, of doing that work. I believe so. Well, I may be wrong.
Oliver? Tolliver. We're going to look it up.
Yeah, we'll look it up. I believe the gentleman's name is Lamar Tyler, I believe. And I can't remember his wife's name. But the care and concern that they put into producing this show, to going around the country and interviewing these couples, to tell their stories, and even when I think about the reasons why we started this podcast, it was so that people would be able to see like the journey on display. Not that we have all the answers, not that this is the way that you should live your life or govern your marriage or love or whatever it is. It is about making sure the story is told. Making sure that people are able to see us err and correct and do whatever it is that we do, so the story can be out there, so that it can be documented. What I didn't have was other people who were living transparently in that way, so I could see their stories and understand how they were navigating relationships. So I wanted to be that for whoever comes after me. Black love has been that for me. No matter success or failure rate, they accomplished the goal in documenting the journey of Black love. So that part, really doesn't sit well with me when we just highlight the mistakes and then call the whole show a curse.
And then so I looked it up. It's actually Cody and Tommy Oliver. So the Olivers, and both are filmmakers. It's like, on one hand, people complain about like, we need more representation, we need to be able to see ourselves, and then we see ourselves, and then to your point, something happens that maybe is like less than ideal, and then we want to turn on it. So just seeing real Black love and all of the ways that it might show up, it matters. It's so, so important. And I wouldn't take that away. I think actually the fact that a couple of them didn't make it is a very honest and important part of the story too. Like, this is what Black love can look like. And sometimes it might work out. Sometimes it might end in a way that you had not expected, but you know what the point is? It exists. It is real. You know what I mean? I was here. That's what's important, in my opinion.
And it is important for all of us to see Black love in action. To see, like, even the couples that were profiled, many of those couples it was not their first marriage anyway. Of course, for Tina Knowles-Lawson was not her first marriage. This was her second time at it that I know of anyway. But even understanding that, those folks were brave enough to put their life and their relationship and the story of how they came to fall in love to work through their issues, the fact that they stayed for as long as they stayed, they put all of that on display for people to see. And we took it and just were like, oh, I ain't never doing this because these 5 that I know of didn't make it. And to me, it just speaks to the level of shame that we carry in our community around not wanting to take a chance on things that we don't think are a sure thing. So many of us choose to hide in the shadows, to bully behind a keyboard, and summer jam everybody else's relationship and keep our stuff a secret and give ourselves like the confirmation bias not to have faith to do the thing ourselves.
Yeah.
Like they failed at it, so surely I'm not going to get it right. And that's, to me, that's really what folks are saying when they say, oh my God, these 5, then it's a curse. No, there's no navigating around like doing the thing. And even when you see people, to me, even if people divorce, even if people like Megan Good or Tia Mowry and Corey Hartrick, if they divorce and decide that their life is like the journey of their Black love together, if that season has ended, I think it's important for me to even see that.
Yeah.
The journey of my first marriage ending, I had so much shame around that relationship ending. I didn't want to do the podcast because that relationship ended. So I thought that there was nothing that I had to share because of that. But there was beauty in that story, the story of resilience, the story of figuring out like who I was, what I actually wanted in relationships. All of those things were important to be able to tell like the totality of my story. And how dare we sit up and say, okay, because this part of a person's life has ended, then they're cursed.
And it just reeks, to your point about shame, the whole idea of, this is what my interpretation of it, like, I'm not even going to share what I'm going through. It like maintains, it perpetuates the highlight reel. That's exactly what it does. And so that's why you see a lot of people don't even post people they're in relationships with. Like somebody could whole ass have a baby with somebody and you've not ever seen. I'll be like, I didn't even know they were with somebody. And now y'all welcome them in a child and still haven't really seen your person, because it's like, well, if something happens, then there's no proof there. And then my highlight reel is still like, I'm still batting 1,000. But I think it's so important. If we're talking about, we want to be real and we want to be transparent, we want all of that, then why would you want just the highlight reel? It's so important for our experience as human beings, as we connect, to like know what other people have gone through. It's a whole premise of our whole last podcast, to so that we don't feel so alone, so that we have other people we can reach out to when like they have gone through something similar to what we've gone through. It bonds us, it connects us, then we can move forward better together. So it's just the whole idea that 10 human beings were once in a relationship with someone and they are no longer there, then the platform that lifted up, elevated their story is somehow cursed because they're human. And like life just, who knows what happened? They grew apart. Maybe they weren't choosing with aligned values at the beginning. Who knows? And I don't think it's for us to know the why. But I just got to say, it's not Black love's fault.
Yeah, it's not. I think it speaks to our inability, especially in this day and time. I'm not going to put it on the new generation. I'm going to put some of it on the new generation, but also how we raise them. We're raising a generation of people by being a generation of people who don't know how to lose, who don't know how to like make a mistake and learn from it. Yeah. We would rather take our social media and be able to just highlight all the wins. Yeah. And so even when there is like, there's this whole narrative going around now where, women and men are saying like, I don't post my significant other. I'm not posting them until we married. Y'all won't see my significant other until we walking down the aisle. And that's because people like, oh, when I post him, he start acting a fool. And that's up to your own value system. But if you gotta come back and just act like a person never existed in your life, like I don't understand why we are just a generation of people who don't know how to lose, who don't know how to like navigate. wins, losses, don't know how to stand up in whatever mistakes we may have made. And I ain't saying anybody should keep anybody they're no longer with on their social media, anything like that. But we have a generation of children coming up behind us that all get participation trophies because they don't know how to win with pride and lose with pride. They don't know how to be present and be mindful and be able to be in the moment, experience the moment for what it was, and realize that moment is not your whole journey. Even when I was pledging, one of the poems that we had to learn says that you have to be able to meet with victory and defeat and treat those two imposters just the same.
Preach.
Because victory is temporary and so is defeat. It's only a moment in time. And if your life is only defined by your victories or only defined by your defeats, then you're up shit creek anyway. We have to be able to understand and respect the totality of our journey. If my whole story can't be told, then I'm lying.
Yeah.
And I'm lying to the people who are coming that have to travel after me if they only see my life as victories.
Yeah.
Because then when they experience defeat, they're like, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
When I met with having to navigate divorce myself, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing it wrong. The rest of my friends had this shit figured out.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't. And that makes me upset to no end that we are putting that narrative in the atmosphere that it's only wins, and we've never experienced anything else. I hate it.
I agree with that perspective. I'm sitting here thinking about how many times I done posted somebody and had to go delete the pictures afterwards. But that's because it happened. Like it was my life. It's my story. And yes, it's the highlight reel, but the why we do that is because of a response like this. So nobody wants the smoke. Nobody wants to be judged. And so I intimately know the feeling of wanting to shrink back and hide and like just stay hidden because I don't want judgment or I don't want the fear or I don't want the othering and just like the whole mob mentality of like just coming for these. I don't want to be, canceled to your point. You're saying you didn't want to start this podcast because you don't want, the shame or the missteps of your past to be thrown in your face. And it's like, I think part of it is, just learning to trust. Like if that happens, I think I would rather just like I don't want to say it's about transparency. I just want to be someone who is having a human experience, who understands and respects and honors my humanity, and I do the same for other people.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't mean that we won't disagree, that, like maybe we won't bump heads, but I don't have to like cancel you. I don't have to write off the whole thing just because I don't know. There's just a couple of marks on it. It's just really, really unfortunate. And what I would have just hoped people would have taken away from it, like I said before, is the fact that it exists, that we're seeing ourselves in this way on national television, right? For the world to see, we're seeing different representations of ourselves and our love and our different shades and different sexualities and different, different issues with their children and with their money and with their, just how they met and we broke up and we got back together. And it's just so needed. And so I still applaud the Olivers for even presenting that because it's just been beautiful to witness, in my opinion. In my opinion.
And I want us to be better. Better than always looking for the damn train wreck. Always looking for the drama.
The tea.
Yeah. I don't know. We just owe it to ourselves to like release the need to, especially to like share the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this some trash. I'm going to share it and even push that negative narrative even further. And I don't know that we understand the impact that we have when we push those types of negative tropes, especially on our communities, because these folks already think that we ain't doing nothing but robbing and killing and stealing and, being hypersexual and promiscuous and all these other things. And then we come back and we share that type of foolishness, not highlighting the good, but taking these 5 examples that are not even bad.
Yeah.
But, it is divorce. When other folk get divorced every day, B.
Every day.
And then not allowing even ourselves the permission to be in relationship and healthily transition out of it. Nobody said these folks who are divorced even got beef. We may know through the blogs and that kind of stuff that people, may not have been getting along in the process of their divorce. But from what I can see, most of these people have quietly parted ways, gone on about their lives, and are doing their things, even dating new people or taking the next step along their journey. And then we highlight our grandparents as folks who, did it better than us because they stayed. But many of us are finding that even grandparents and parents didn't want to stay. They just didn't have nowhere to go, but that's important. Put in context, right? We are just folks who don't always honor the journey. And for me, I've gotten to a place in my life where I really want to honor my entire journey.
Yeah.
I had some shame around, the things that happened in my relationships in college, the things that happened in my marriage, the first marriage. I had all of these things that I brought along with me that were so shameful to me because I didn't think they were going to look good. And this type of negative publicity kind of highlights why I didn't want to share, like you were saying earlier. But it is important for me that we have the conversation because I hope the people that I was in relationship with in college, I hope my ex, I hope that she's done whatever work she needs to do and has gotten to the point to where she's happy in her life, with whatever new choices she's made. I'm certainly happy with the choices that I've made, but her life didn't end after me.
Yeah.
I pray that, friendships that I've dissolved, I hope that the person I was in that friendship with has learned something, from whatever caused that relationship to dissolve and has become better for the next friendship that they're in. But I had to go through what I went through in order to know that I needed some level of intervention to do something different in relationship moving forward.
Yeah.
That journey had to come to an end before I knew that I needed to do something different. And there are folks who are still in situations and they don't talk about them because they plan to stay and they don't plan to do anything different. I applaud the people who decide that I want to do something different, or even I'm brave enough to, put my story out before the world. But the thing about putting your story out before the world is that you open yourself up for judgment from the world. And that's hard.
It goes back to Auntie Brene Brown, daring greatly. What's happening is a whole bunch of people who haven't been in the arena out here with this side chatter. And so, in that book, what she talks about in terms of shame is nudging us towards how do we just only focus on the folks who are actually in the arena doing something. And those are the ones that, probably matter a little bit more. But this outside chatter is just so loud. It's my gosh, why are y'all coming for this beautiful platform? And so, we always take time to talk about the haze. I don't want us to just get caught up in venting the rant, but what's the haze do you feel in all of this?
There's several hazes, right? Because the haze for me is having patience even for my community, with the people who are sharing the type of nonsense, right? To have some level of correction and not just cussing. Because I feel like I've gotten to a place of healing to the point to where I can kind of zoom out and I can see that even the separation can be healthy. But I can also see that, maybe there's a degree of understanding that people don't have, around sharing negative tropes about our community and the larger impact that has. There's also a haze around wanting to go back and do some education and freeing other people from this tie that we have, this unhealthy relationship that we have with guilt and shame. And that's hard work to do, especially for people who would just rather shrink back and hide. And it's a haze because it is much easier to just hide and experience whatever you experience, and people never have to see you, right? But I believe that a part of my duty is to take the journey transparently so people know that they're not alone. And everybody doesn't believe that they're called to that, and that's fine. But by God, don't judge the people who are. You know, and that is a hell of a haze for me, and a hell of a thing to have to do to, it's okay if you want to shrink back if you want. I'm going to be out here, I'm going to be on the front lines doing the work. And I would hope that when you see my humanity, that you don't treat me like that. But I also have to be prepared for the fact that people may very well do that. Like may see this episode and then see me misstep down the line and be like, he was talking all that shit and now look at him. You know, but I'm okay with that smoke too, because if you don't allow people to be human, then you spend your whole life like not being yourself, right? Yeah. Showing up as somebody that you really aren't.
To people please.
And I'm not interested in people pleasing. I'm interested in our stories being told. I'm interested in being a bridge builder and providing a map for those people who have to come after me. And even if that map is filled with caution signs, because I'm able to say that was my mistake, you don't have to make the same mistake. So if that's how I get to my caution sign and it helps somebody that comes after me, I'm absolutely fine with that. If you don't want to be a bridge builder, I'm okay with that too. But don't come over here, you know, talking trash about my bridge building, because you're probably going to catch these hands or at least a cuss out. But that's a hell of a haze to feel both of those ways, right? That I want to be helpful, but I also want folks to unlearn this unhealthy ass behavior that we have around like judging people who share and who are willing to put their stuff on display, even if it's with some judgment attached to it.
For me, the haze feels like, I mean, there's just some, I don't know if it's a haze, but just some disappointment in just the response to a show like that. And I did see some folks in the comments just like, oh, I haven't even watched the show. And so it breaks my heart that their first introduction to it is like this negative messaging. And then the other thing is, it has me wondering, like, do people talk about, I honestly don't know, do they talk about The Bachelor and The Bachelorette in the same way? Like, and those are actually dating shows, you know, and have people stayed together from those, and is that show cursed, you know? And it's so interesting, like the premise is not even matchmaking or together forever. It's literally a documentary. These are like stories about people's lives. And so in those people's lives, I'm just being redundant at this point, it's just, they separated, and that's a part of life, and it's real. It's not cursed. So then are we saying everybody who gets divorced is cursed?
Right.
You know, like, so what actually are you saying by making this connection, this very superficial, uninformed connection about these five these five couples' lives? And so it just feels, I don't know if I'm communicating a haze to my point. It's just like a disappointment. So I guess if I could find a haze, it is just the complexity with sharing our stories. It is the complexity with seeing Black humanity. I think that's probably it. Like, it's already hard for us to show up in the world because there's so many systems and forces against us. And then there is something for us and by us. And we have the audacity to come for it. That is heartbreaking, it's disappointing, and it's absolutely a haze, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other part of it goes back to like what we were talking about earlier about the way that our community is already perceived.
Yeah.
There's like this inherent like lack of being able to see our humanity, right? When we see stories about the water boys in Atlanta, when we see stories about people who come from poor neighborhoods, about Black folk and Black kids not excelling in schools, nobody like, it feels like the society in general doesn't dig through and see the causality and see the humanity and see, you know, what those kids and what our communities don't have that causes that, right? And then we have attained enough privilege to then come and judge Black marriages with some of that same strong hand. Like, oh my God, they're terrible. They didn't stay together. When it is but a single chapter in their whole story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 1,000% a better husband for you than I was to my first wife. Mm-hmm. And that is because I had the opportunity to learn and to grow and to get therapy. And in some great deal, I was operating based on the information I had at the time in that first marriage. I thank God.
Yeah.
And this may sound crazy. I thank God for divorce. Because it gave me an opportunity to really like transition out of something that I had been doing based on what I thought, to do some work, to learn some skills, to be able to transition to something that I knew more about and I was more of a student of, and just giving myself permission to be a habitual student as it relates to relationship, something that I had never done before. So there's a possibility that I could have stayed and been a horrible husband for 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, and just gotten the credit because I wouldn't have been one of the 5 couples that divorced. Right. And that does me no good if I had stayed.
Or her.
Yeah. Any good if I had stayed. I would much rather thank God for divorce and the learning and the healing and the growing and being able to be better on this side of it. Even if I had never remarried, to be a better human on this side of it, rather than just be stuck under the guise of like, I stayed and I'm not divorced. I'm just not in that percentage of people that divorced. And that's much more important to me. And it's not that for everybody, but it is something very small to look at and make somebody just that percentage, or make somebody just that in their story.
Yeah. It reads like self-hate to me, quite honestly. And I don't want to, that feels like strong language to use, but what else could it be to come for your own kind other than your own kind? I shouldn't have said that way, but you know what I mean? Like, what else could it be? And so I want to usher us into navigating the haze. And so all I have is just like, keep showing up, you know, like regardless of what naysayers are going to say or what they're going to call you. And I know that's easier said than done. And these stories are so important. These types of stories, anything that shows our humanity, our existence, the fullness of who we are, is just so desperately needed. And I appreciate it, and I celebrate it, and I honor it. And I would just say that keep on keeping on is what I would offer. Navigating
for the people who are not in the arena, and for those of us who are in the arena, get off that bullshit, man, and really like get free. Give yourself permission to be out here living and loving and erring and correcting, and like do it for yourself. Like just be what it is that you need. Be a person who is able to make a mistake out loud and make the correction out loud too. You know, so other people know that ain't no perfection out here. We tend to be folks who are looking for perfection because we see perfection. But most of that perfection is fake.
It's manufactured.
It's fake love. And when you see people out here being real, when you shit on them, it just perpetuates the need for people to feel like they need to be fake and they need to try to be perfect, or they need to at least project that they're perfect. And so navigating the haze to me is like, I'm going to stay on this grind. Like, even if I make a mistake, I'm going to be transparent about the mistake that I made. The fact that I couldn't wait to go to therapy to talk to the therapist for her to tell you that you were wrong. Only for her to then tell me that I was wrong anyway. I think those things are important because the way that we feel, the way that we love, all of those things are valid. They're important. They're a part of our stories, and our stories need to be told.
Yep.
Our children, our nieces, our nephews, our friends and family, they need to be able to see us successfully navigate challenges. They need to be able to see us meet with defeat in a season and see our resiliency. They need to be able to see us experience like victory and success as well and be just as resilient and have the same stick-to-itiveness for the goal that we set for ourselves, even if it doesn't look like what we thought it was going to look like. Yeah, I thought I was going to be married for forever, but I wasn't the first time. Yes, I believe that this is my last marriage. You know, and this is my person, right? And I'm going to move about my life as if that is my truth.
Yeah.
You know, and you will see my humanity along this journey. As long as we're on this platform, as long as we're in a relationship, as long as we're in friendship, if y'all see me out somewhere, you're going to see my humanity at some point. And I would pray that you love me enough to see my humanity and know that I'm still a person. And that doesn't negate, you know, anything that I've said because you see my humanity.
Yeah, we've got a really weird thing going on in culture these days. Something you mentioned earlier made me think about suicide rate. You were saying our younger generations or people in general don't know how to fail or don't, you know, the expectations that what highlight reels have done is like people are now comparing themselves to the highlight reels on the internet and thinking like, oh, I'm not there. I'm not rich and living this luxurious lifestyle where I'm flying everywhere. I'm not an influencer at 23. And so I failed at life. And then I need to 17-year-olds taking their own lives because they haven't made it yet.
Yeah.
My goodness. Like, who are we at 17? Our brains aren't even fully formed yet. So that is detrimental. And there's this interesting thing going on with the world right now where it's like, include everybody. Everybody's free to be who they are, express themselves as who they are, be them true selves. They're fluid, they're this, they're that. And so there's space for everybody and let's include everybody. Your language isn't inclusive enough. Right. Watch how you talk about, don't say this word anymore. And then here we are. Somebody's gone through divorce and is like, the show is cursed. And like, it's just so the opposite of inclusion. And so it's just, excuse my language, it's such a mind fuck. Right. You know what I mean? Just, why can't people just be who they are and be accepted? And like, your experience is different, but it's valuable and it's meaning. And like, why do we always have to come for everybody? Come for everything. And so we got to do better, you know?
And that inclusive stuff, sometimes it's frequently performative. People say these things and then, you know, I see what you say, but what you doing and how you coming for folk and not allowing people to be human and have their journeys, it doesn't align with what you're saying you are and what you're saying that you believe. Like your actions are speaking much louder than what you've said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've absolutely said a mouthful here. What's the music for the moment? Any final thoughts? Those felt like really final solidifying thoughts, but I want to jump into the music for the moment because I got several of them.
Well, you know, I'll just say that I love the idea of documenting all of our journeys, our entire story. And if there was some other doc, if it wasn't just Black Love Doc, I would still be defending it if it is our stories and if it's about our authentic selves. And I would say to people that I hope that this doesn't encourage anybody from like being your authentic self. Yeah. Whether people can accept you or not. Like it really is about like showing up as who you are, being able to navigate relationship and doing the best that you can with the information that you have. And if that is different, if it does not align with the person you're with, then, you know, if you transition out of relationship or into new relationship, whatever it is, it's okay. As long as you are showing up as your authentic self and you're not afraid or ashamed to tell your story.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
Yeah. So your music for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What it is.
What are they? So first one I thought about was Mary J. Real Love. Just felt like the whole idea of real love. Sometimes you make it, sometimes it doesn't. And that doesn't mean that you didn't love the person. You know, you can make a different choice and love still have existed there. So real love, that's what happens. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they pass away. Sometimes, you know, like there's no way to tell. Nobody has like a magic 8-ball or fortune. I was gonna say cookie, but what is it? Crystal ball. That's what I was going for. So real love is absolutely one of them. The next one is Beyonce's I Was Here. You know, I'm not even a ballad fan.
Okay.
But the whole essence of I came, I saw, I was here, I aired, I corrected, I was here. I'm also thinking of, you know, Celie from The Color Purple in the musical version. Shout out to that movie coming out. Some of y'all go see it. She also sings I Was Here in obviously a different musical version. I don't know if we'll add that to the playlist, but the premise is the same. Like, I may be ugly. I may have failed. I may have whatever the case is. It doesn't matter because I was here. The fact is, the important part of it is I was here. And so those just feel like, you know, the essence of this whole debacle.
I'll send one out for the people who transitioned out of relationship. Love Again by Brandy and Daniel Caesar. And just in the song, they're just talking about having the courage to love again. Yeah. Yeah, that's real for me.
That's good. That's good. That was a good one.
It's not always about, you know, what happens when when it's all sunshine and rainbows and together. Sometimes it is just about having the courage to love again. And there's no shame to be found around the dissolution of a relationship or marriage or whatever. Sometimes it is time for you to open the next chapter of your story, and that's okay. And I just would encourage all of us to not be ashamed of any parts of our story and not to view any parts of our story as curses, because we're not cursed.
That's right.
As a people, we're not cursed.
That's right.
We resilient as fuck, bruh.
Blessed and highly favored.
Yeah, that too.
Well, if you made it this far in the conversation, thank you so much for continuing to listen. And that must mean you heard something that you like. So please share it with a friend. We invite you to like, follow, subscribe, rate, do all the things. Leave us a comment or even reach out to us at thelovehaze@gmail.com or in our DMs, however you prefer to communicate. We love to hear from you. And like we always say, life is going to life, clearly as evidenced by today's conversation.
Yeah.
Life is going to life, but we have everything that we need within us to navigate through it.
And the most important thing is that you're not alone. Join us next time. We're going to take this journey together. Appreciate y'all. Peace.